classic prototype of the Canary Island footballer, Guayre Betancor was one of those players with a fragile appearance, but blessed with extraordinary natural talent and ability. He broke into the elite at the turn of the century and played almost 200 games in LaLiga, representing 4 different clubs and also being capped by Spain. Betancor was one of the finest products to come through the Unión Deportiva Las Palmas academy.
Nowadays, there are 2 or 3 teams at every level, Alevín, Infantil. Before, there was only one and it was difficult to stick around. I remember I was always saying that they were going to get rid of me because I was very thin and small. But I was kept on at the end of every year. From 9 to 21, I was here in the youth teams.
After more than a decade in the academy, Guayre finally came up into the first team at the age of 20. He shone in his first season in the elite, playing 31 games and scoring 8 goals, amongst them a memorable masterpiece at the Camp Nou against Barcelona.
At the time that I made my debut, it was very difficult to join the first team, because it had been years since they had last been in the first division. Lots of highly paid players from outside were preferred. The only ones from the Canary Islands were those of us who had spent a long time there. I think it was only Paquito, Orlando and maybe one more in that team, but it was very difficult to come through. They'd spent a lot of time in the 3rd and 2nd divisions, but for us youngsters, we had the likes of Jorge, Ruben, Angel and myself. That was after a couple of years without any player from the Canary Islands. Players would play 1 game, do a bad job and be sent away.
His impact was immediate and he quickly attracted interest from various teams. His first destination was Villarreal, where he played well for 5 seasons, despite a tough start for the Yellow Submarine.
I had a bad time for a year or so because I'm from here and feel a close connection with my home. I took a while to adapt because besides being away from home, I also had problems with my agents. I was living away from home for the first time and had some extra problems, which meant I had a bad year and a half. I ended up acclimatizing, and that was when I started to be more like myself.
In the summer of 2006, he made another change and left for Vigo, where he suffered a cavalcade of injuries that would plague him for the rest of his career.
When I left Villarreal, a lot of teams in the Champions League or UEFA Cup wanted to sign me. I was very highly rated. I chose Celta because I knew the coach and my teammates. I liked the big stadium they had, and I was sure that it was going to work out perfectly for me. It was until a week before the season when I was injured. That was the start of a decline, because all of the relapses followed. I had a really tough time in Vigo. I spent 2 years in Vigo with that problem, and I never got back that strength I had in my hamstrings. I went to Soria in the 1st division, but the same problem occurred. I held up for a while and then had a relapse. One day I underwent surgery and decided to go back home and play in the 2nd division if I recovered, because when I went back to Las Palmas, we agreed as a pay-for-play deal. I arrived here, spent a couple of months rehabbing, and was ready when the season started. But I had more problems. The doctors never detected what I had, and the issues continued. It was like that right from when my injuries first began.
Finally, Guayre hung up his boots in 2013 when at Lugo. Curiously, his final coach was Quique Setien, currently in charge at Unión Deportiva Las Palmas.
He's got them playing football. That's the biggest thing this side have done. Played football against big sides, small ones, and those in between. If you like football, you have to enjoy a coach like that.
The standout for Las Palmas this season has been Jonathan Vieira, who has very similar characteristics to those that took Guayre to the top.
The best player, who I also know personally, is Jonathan. Anyone can see that. But there are others up there who have performed at a very high level upon arrival in the first division or upon receiving a chance. That's the case of Dana, who Quique Setién immediately backed. Dana has responded by playing at a very high level.
Jonathan Vieira, Tana, Roque Mesa and Vicente Gomez are part of the spectacular new generation, taking over from the one captained by Gran Canaria's own Guayre Betancor in the first decade of the century.